How's it going, everyone? It is Andre Williams, and over here we talk stocks and we focus on one thing. Always protect your profits. And today we're going to be talking about SNDL Sundial Growers. I came across this article. I'm going to be sharing the important points, and I feel it's very key for investors or anyone who's thinking about taking a position that they need to know. So before we get started, of course, we got to go over the agenda. If you're new to this channel, I just want to let you know we have timestamps down below inside the description. But if you are a shareholder or you're thinking about taking a position, I highly suggest you watch this full entire video. So the first thing we're going to be going over are 3 points you need to know about SNDL and why it has a lot of potential as a Canadian cannabis stock. And then secondly, we're going to be doing a technical analysis, taking a look at the overall price action, support as well as resistance, and key areas that we need to know as far as taking a look at volume as well. We want to know, what is the average volume looking like? Are we getting more volume than usual? Are we getting less? And then we're going to be taking a look doing the order flow distribution. We want to know, is big money finally coming into the stock, or are they not taking part? Well, we're about to find out. And then when all of that is done, we'll be jumping into the final thoughts and as well as some more key details. So let's get to it. Now let's talk about why SNDL has a lot of potential as a Canadian cannabis stock. So the first thing is it has plenty of cash and minimal debt. An important metric I like to consider is how long the cash will last at the company's current burn rate, because having lots of money doesn't mean a whole lot if you're wasting most of it. Over the past 3 months, Sundial spent $34.4 million in its day-to-day operating activities. At that rate, its cash balance could last for more than 5 years, assuming investing activities were kept to a minimum. By comparison, Aurora Cannabis's cash and cash equivalents of $470 million would be enough to last roughly a little more than a year and a half, and its current monthly burn rate of more than $25.5 million. And to kind of put things in perspective, as far as the cash balance that SNDL has, is at 752.7 million Canadian dollars. So this is a good point that's being brought up, and we've talked about this already. By having such a strong cash position, it gives SNDL a lot of flexibility, and it does let us know, as far as offerings and so on, they shouldn't be doing it anytime soon, especially since they have so much cash on hand and they can use that to invest, do acquisitions, and so forth. So let's move on to the second point. It's diversifying its operations. Another thing I like about Sundial is that the company's taking advantage of its cash position, deploying it into opportunities that will make the business more diverse. In May, the company announced it was acquiring retail cannabis company Inner Spirit in a cash and stock deal worth $131 million. The move instantly gives the cannabis producer a strong retail presence. Inner Spirit has 86 locations across Canada, including both franchise and corporate-owned stores. Sundial also invested in an edibles company Indiva, while also increasing its ownership in Valens, a cannabis extraction business. But it's clear the company has investments as its main focus, recently increasing its investment in Sunstream Bancorp to $188 million to $538 million. The joint venture created with the SAF Group is designed to look for cannabis-related investments. It has been by far Sundial's biggest move this year. One of the reasons investors have been bullish on the stock is that they know the company has been looking for deals in its year-end results released on March 17th. The company said it is exploring opportunities for its capital, and this may result in transactions, including a merger. And for the third point, it isn't overly aggressive and spreading itself out too thin. Although Sundial is exploring opportunities, it hasn't wasted its cash on a bad acquisition. It's clear that management has been careful in its analysis of where to invest. A big reason why Sundial isn't as risky as Aurora or other Canadian pot stocks is that its operations are focused on the Alberta market. While the recent acquisitions will expand its presence, the company hasn't been overly aggressive in its pursuit of growth. It isn't focusing on the US pot market that may be off limit for years. That's an important consideration if it wants to keep its costs down, and it already appears to be paying off. Despite a 30% year-over-year decline in revenue for the period ending March 31st, Sundial's coming off its first ever adjusted EBITDA profit, and we've talked about that many times on the channel, and it's one of the positive signs you want to see from SNDL. Among the best-run cannabis companies in North America is Trulieve. While it is a multi-state operator as of June 23rd, it had 91 locations across the US, 85 which were in its home state of Florida. A focused strategy on one key market has allowed Trulieve to post profits while many companies in the industry have struggled to stay out of the red. Alberta is certainly no Florida, but by avoiding the temptation of being too aggressive to expand south of the border or in its markets that will require significant resources to develop, Sundial is keeping its operations simple and keeping that cash burn rate down. So this is definitely some good points I want you guys to take into consideration, especially for all the long-term holders out there. SNDL is definitely doing what it needs to do to make sure that they maintain their position in regards to cash and making sure they're not burning through it, and also making the right investments that's going to help grow the company and also give them a competitive edge inside of the cannabis market. And yes, I know what you're saying, it's a Canadian company, they're focusing on Canada, but at the end of the day, we've seen it. When we see catalysts coming into the cannabis sector, and one of that being is being actually legalized on a federal level in the United States, SNDL will be able to be that sympathy play. It's the rising tide floats all boats. It will benefit from this. So now let's jump into the technical analysis as well as the order flow, and I'll give you guys my final thoughts. So we're going to be doing a technical analysis for SNDL Sundial Growers. Let's see how it performed on the day. So it ended up closing at 84 cents, being down 4% on the day. On the low, it tested 83 cents, and then on the high, testing 90 cents. When we take a look at the volume that it had today, we had about 91.92 million shares that were traded. As far as the average that we get over 10 trading days, it was around 96.62 million. So we were below average in regards to overall volume. But what does this mean? What it means is we had a volatile day. There were a lot of stocks that were pulling back. We see institutions are putting a lot of big money into big caps. So this is no surprise. If we take a look at the RSI down below, we're using the 1-year daily chart. It is right around 39.57. So it is in the oversold territory. Indicators, you can see we're above the 200-day, but we are below the 100-day and as well as a 21-day EMA. Yesterday, we were actually able to test a 21-day EMA until we got rejected. But today, we didn't even get a chance to actually touch it since we only got to around 90 cents. So what I want to look forward to, I'd want to see SNDL continue to hold up and trade within this particular range. When I talk about consolidation, when I talk about support, this is good for SNDL because then we can look forward to seeing a bigger move to the upside if it's building support in this area. So another thing we also need to understand, if it ever comes down to the 200-day, I know many of you are going to be considering to add, but if it does break right through it, then I'll be looking forward to be getting in at the low 70s. Again, that's kind of the focus that I've done in regards to when I'm buying shares for SNDL. Now let's take a look at the order flow distribution for SNDL. So we could see here on the inflow, we had 22, and on the outflow, we had 25. We had 0 on the large, 13 on the medium, and then 10 on the small. As far as for the outflow side, we had medium, which was 15, and then small, which was 10. When we take a look at the large scale orders in the last 5 days, you could see 0 continuing across the board, July the 14th being 0. So we do not have institutions going in with any large scale orders whatsoever. So mainly all of the price action that we're seeing is coming from the small, the medium, and as well as retail investors that are getting in and out of this play. There's a lot of day traders that play off SNDL as well, but of course you guys know that and you're already aware of that. Another thing we need to take a look at, we're seeing a shift going on inside of the market. The cannabis sector is not popping off right now, but for the most part, we do know SNDL can benefit from this. But of course, let's jump into the final thoughts and we'll go over some more details. So for my final thoughts for SNDL Sundial Growers, it's definitely been a volatile week for this stock. Another thing we need to understand, as far as those areas that we talked about inside the technical analysis, we need to see SNDL break through those areas of resistance and stop being hit with selling pressure, especially when it gets close to touching the 21-day EMA. If it's able to actually pass this particular area, then I'm looking forward to seeing a strong move to the upside. And to be exact, we want to see SNDL get into 95 cents and be comfortable, consolidate, and then make that big push. Another thing, when I was on FinTel and I was taking a look at the short volume ratio, I could see it is around 39%. When we look for stocks that have short squeeze potential, it's usually around 21% or higher. So for SNDL, it's definitely looking right for that, considering the stats that I was able to look over. And another thing we also want to be aware of are the large scale orders. We are not seeing any of that whatsoever. We're mainly seeing small and as well as medium orders. So no institutions are loading up or going in too big when it comes to this stock. Also, another thing that I want you guys to be aware of, and especially you might see this impacted with a lot of other stocks, especially the ones that are inside of the growth sector as far as medium and as well as small caps, and even as well as penny stocks, you're seeing a lot of them pulling back. So what's happening is the big money is selling out of their positions and they're moving their money into bigger cap stocks like the FANG stocks and so forth. We know also it is earnings season. So as far as the volatility that you are seeing, I just want to make sure you're prepared, you understand that, and you know what is going on here. So if there's any plays that you may have in your portfolio or you've been looking at, hey, take advantage. You want to be able to buy stocks on red days or when they're pulling back. Stop focusing on buying stocks when they're on green days or when they're running up. Get yourself in the habit of taking advantage of those opportunities, and this is why I always talk about why it's so important to make sure you have cash on the side. And as far as the 3 points that we went over earlier in the video in regards to why SNDL has so much potential, I feel like this is great information for long-term holders to know about, and at the end of the day, I completely agree with all of the points. As long as SNDL continues to make the right investments, they focus on what they're good at, and also just focusing on actually expanding the market that they're already in and making sure that they're the leaders in that particular area, I think it could pay off very well for them. And on their most recent earnings report, we did see an improved EBITDA, so of course we're going to be looking forward to seeing that trend actually continue. Hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll be talking real soon.